Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. So, for years I was like a nerdist. I studied, I read around, I was always seeking knowledge. I've come full spectrum, obviously, from one side of the aisle to completely the other side, and then even beyond into something that I don't even know what you would call it. But for years I watched these wonderful people that I got to meet virtually, etc., who are economists that would do these live presentations in front of panels of people, lots of people, like tens of people, like maybe 5 or 10 people in the audience. And, they were very poor sound quality, very poor, I don't know what you want to call it, very, very poor video quality, very poor attendance. Nobody was interested in it, but they were very, very polite. These economists were very, very polite, and they said things in a very, very sweet but difficult way to understand. So I endeavored, because this stuff mattered to me, to try and figure out what the hell they were saying. And it took years to figure out what the hell they were saying, because I was reading through it pretty dry stuff. And then I had lots of friends who took the time to walk me through it. But nonetheless, what you watched was complete and utter apathy. People did not care at all about economics. It was just flat out boring. I mean, boring, boring, boring. And so while you're watching these horrifically boring speeches that are meaningful and wonderful, but yet boring, and your eyes glaze over. You want to put toothpicks in your eyes, and your eyes feel like sandpaper, and you're starting to think about when you can go to the bathroom and where you can get a soda and, maybe what's on TV that night. And you just don't even care what they're saying because it's so flippin' boring, okay? And I would watch these things, and it was just the same for me, folks. And I mean, I have an MBA, which means absolutely nothing. I took lots of time, spent lots of energy, lots of money trying to get this thing so I could get a great job. And it taught me very, very bad economics. Very, very bad economics. And so as I listened to these economists talking about how the textbooks basically stopped in 1971 and they didn't make any sense, they didn't really make any adjustments, and the things they taught were always based as if we were on monetarist standards, etc. It was very, very difficult to comprehend how and what way we could ever make any progress or learn from this stuff, because everybody's being taught bad information, including yours truly. And so I started saying to myself, okay, well, how do you make people care about something? I mean, really, how do you make people care about something? And for years, I've tried different ways of doing it. I've tried the gentle, softer way, which is really very difficult for me because it's not my MO. But then I've tried the MMA deathmatch way, where you're like pushing people up against the wall, forcing them to feel angry at you, taking the bullets for them to wake them up. It's not that I want to be Darth Vader. It's that I know the subject matter so well, and that you will not care about it if it's done in a sweet, kind fashion. This is the worst part about it. It's the most important issue, and yet it's one of the most boring issues. So how do you bridge the gap between boredom and important? And it's difficult. So I watched people sharing around this meme earlier today, and this meme had a giant octopus on it. And the giant octopus had all these scary things, and in the middle it said, Federal Reserve. And I thought to myself, see, now that's the kind of garbage that will get shared because it doesn't require any thinking. It's exciting because it's a scary looking octopus. It tells you scary things. But, I'm watching, and people are genuinely offended when I push their back against the wall. When I talk about murderers by proxy, it offends them. But the truth is that when you go to a Black Lives Matter protest, and somebody tells them they should mind their manners. Mind your manners. Respect authority. Don't you go into that thing and act belligerent. But they're sitting there fighting, and they're like grabbing the microphone, and they're speaking truth to power. Why? Because people are dying. Well, this isn't racism. This is economicism, whatever you want to call it. But it's lethal nonetheless. It's the same lethalness. It's got the same lethality, or whatever the right word for this is, that cops killing young black men in the streets has. Because it's killing the elderly. It's killing the poor. It's killing all of us who are living paycheck to paycheck. So why should I behave in a way that's respectful and kind and sweet and loving when I'm trying to save lives? If you're not going to listen to Stephanie Kelton when she's at the lectern speaking to a class of doctoral students in a fashion that's meant for academics, and you're not going to listen to somebody that's sweet say it, and you're going to say, well, show me your credentials. Let me see your credentials, because I really am a good judge of credentials. Let me see your credentials, right? And so you want to see the credentials. So I show you my credentials. And then somebody goes, oh, he's got to show off his degrees because he's so arrogant. And then you say, well, dude, some jackhole just asked me to show my credentials. So I'm showing you my credentials. I don't give a shit about this. I'm laying the straight dope out to you. So why should I behave like people are not dying, but the Black Lives Matter folks who I support big time are supposed to be good people and quiet and mind your manners. Mind your manners. You say it sweetly because you're offending me. You say it sweetly. Don't you dare offend me. But what about white lives matter? What about all lives matter? What about it? What about all economic truths matter? No. This is the same thing. I'm speaking truth to you all, and I don't know how to reach everyone, and I'm going to piss some off, and some are going to sit there and say, he's a sociopath. He's a this. What I am doing is trying to find a million ways to say the same thing over and over and over again, because number one, when you go to college, or let's say you even go to high school, right? And the teacher gives an assignment out there. And one kid goes home, doesn't get to go outside and play, has to stay in his bedroom, reads his textbooks, okay? Mom makes him take a pre-test at home using the back of the chapter to make sure he's ready for the test in the morning. He goes to school the next morning, he gets 100% on the test. Some other kid was out there playing games, playing video games, drinking grape, doing whatever he wanted to do, comes to school and then taunts and teases the kid who did their homework as a nerd, a loser, a fag, a this, a that, all the horrible things they say about the kid that did their homework. Well, why is it too much to ask people, instead of making me repeat the same live stream over and over and over again? Why is it too much to ask you to do your homework and read the fucking links we provide? Is that really too much to ask? I mean, seriously, I lost time with my family researching it. I want to save the world, but that requires a little bit of give and take here. Somebody came into the thread the other day, somebody named Cat something or other, and said, well, why don't you provide sources for all your stuff? Why don't you provide sources? Well, I'll give you a long list of sources. How many of them have you actually read? Now, I know that people have read them because my inbox is full of people ready to fight this fight. But I got a laundry list of people whining, he's so arrogant. He's so mean. He said something that made my feels hurt. He made my feels hurt. My feels hurt so bad. My feels really hurt. For those of you whose feels hurt and you are genuinely seeking knowledge, this is only for you, not for the other people. But for those people who are actively seeking knowledge, who I have offended by doing this, you have my deepest sympathies, and I am sorry for offending you. Truly, truly sorry. I mean, no disrespect. That is straight truth. For those of you who are easily offended, or not even easily offended, those of you who are offended in any way, shape, or form, but are actively seeking truth, not coming here to tell me I'm wrong without doing the homework, not coming here to troll me, not telling me I'm Soros bought, not telling me anything that's worthless about the Rothschilds, those people who are actively seeking truth, and I have offended, you have my deepest sympathies. And I am sorry from the bottom of my heart that I offended you. Now, getting you guys off to the side, now the people that I'm focused on kicking in the teeth, the people that come here saunter in, they haven't done the homework, they act like they know what they're talking about. They're misleading people in droves with these stupid memes about the Rothschilds and the Federal Reserve and all the other things that destroy progress. To you people, fuck you. Straight dope, man. Double-fisted. Okay? I'm not apologizing to you. You are the enemy. If you're misleading people and you think that you know all this shit and you can't back it up and you haven't bothered to do the homework, fuck you. That's a straight up fuck you. To the other people, though, they deserve better. And I am sorry. And if I could break it up into the kinder, gentler, softer way of doing it over here, and people that wanted to sign up for the kinder, softer, gentler way could just listen and sit down and we could go through these things in the sweetheart way, then we do it over there. But people are literally dying when you cut spending and you create unemployment, unnecessary unemployment, and 40,000 people kill themselves based on a 1% drop in unemployment, and you're worried about your fucking feelings? Get over it. Get over it. I'm going to speak truth to power as if I'm Black Lives Matter or anything else does, because they got it right. You don't sit there and wait for someone to feel okay about doing the right thing. You don't wait for them to feel okay, get their feels right before you save lives. There's never a right or wrong time to do the right thing. And I don't care if it hurts you. I mean, I don't, my goal is not to hurt you. My goal is to challenge you, to get you to wake up and take care of business. If that bothers you, I am sorry. I need people to fight for the right things. The GOP is actively pushing a balanced budget amendment in the Senate right now. Right now. The GOP is actively pushing for a constitutional convention where they want to push a balanced budget amendment right now. This is going to hurt every one of your families in a way that you could never understand if you don't do the homework and have the tools to fight. This is every bit as important, if not more important, than DAPL. It's every bit as important, if not more important, than Black Lives Matter, because it affects literally the entire nation. Every single immigrant that comes to this country is stuck in a situation based on these factors that breed bigotry. Because, oh my God, Jose took my fucking job at the freaking whatever. These are the things that this knowledge will eliminate. It will literally eliminate causal bigotry. This stuff that's caused by austerity measures by our government. Our government breeds bigotry. And then we blame the little people for being bigots. It's time for us to literally get angry enough, to care enough, to do the right thing. And like I said, I owe a big apology to those people who are actively seeking answers, who are actively going out there and reading the material and don't understand it. And when they hear me go off uncorked, when they hear me pop off, man, it offends their sensibilities. And for you, I am more than sorry. It breaks my heart that I offended you, because that was never my intention. But these people over here that saunter around talking about end the Fed, talking about friggin' gold standard, talking about all this shit that doesn't help us with fucking environmental issues, doesn't help us with our children, doesn't help us with free college, doesn't help us with Medicare for all, doesn't help us with any of the things that matter, rebuilding infrastructure, doing any of the green energy grid stuff that we have to do. Okay? When you realize that they are an impediment to saving our children, then you damn well better get angry. If you don't realize that, then I'm going to keep pissing you off. Do you get this? This is not intended to be arrogant. It's not intended to be anything. I am outright pissed off, and you should be too. And once you wake up and you see it, you'll understand it as well, and you will get angry as well. When they tell you they've got to cut Social Security, and you look at your mom, and she's 80 fucking years old, and she can't pay her bills because they cut it off, and they're sitting there saying, we got to cut it. And you know you don't have to cut it. When you know that you don't have to cut it, and you get angry. And when you hear somebody waxing, we got to go into gold standard. We need to green the dollar. We need to do all these things, man, before we can help your grandmother. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. And if that offends you, then good, do your homework. Do your homework. People are dying, and if that bothers you, I am truly sorry, because you should be upset that people are dying. You should be upset. For fuck's sake, you should be upset. They are lying to you about the way taxes are done. Taxes are literally deleted from the system, guys. It's not a bad thing. We need taxes to drive the currency so that your dollar is worth something. You see that? There is a very valid reason for taxation. One of those reasons, however, is not to pay for things. So when you hold up Social Security expansion, when you hold up Medicare for all, when you hold up green energy, because you got to find a way to pay for it. How are you going to pay for it, Bernie? How are you going to pay for it, Jill? How are you going to pay for it, next progressive in line? Okay? We always have money for the next bomb that's dropping. We never don't have money for the next bomb that falls on some poor 1-year-old Yemeni at a freaking wedding. We always have money for that next bomb. Have you ever wondered how that's possible? Our monetary system is both wonderful and awful all at once. It can be used for great good or great evil. You're not telling me anything I don't know. I'm not seeking answers. I'm telling you. Do you understand? This is the trade-off. This is the hard part. When you've done the homework, when you did it year-round and you did it all day long, 24/7, and you're obsessed once you wake up and you realize, oh my God, I've got to make the world realize this. When you realize this, it will make you crazy angry. It will wake you up in a way that you can't turn off. You can't shut it out. You can't get reinserted in the matrix, because the truth is that powerful. And so what I'm trying to tell you is this. Instead of trying to blow things up that you don't understand, instead of talking about things you don't understand, instead of telling people, end the Fed, because it's a good bumper sticker, talk about how do Federal Reserve decisions get made? How does the Board of Governors get installed? How do we do that? Who does it? Who selects them? And if you find out that the president appoints them, and you find out these things, then you go ahead and you elect a progressive to do the appointments. If you don't like a neoliberal in the Federal Reserve making neoliberal choices, then you pick a fucking progressive to do the same thing, and you get a different result. It's not the Fed that's the problem. It's the fact that we keep putting neoliberals in there. So yeah, I'm jacked, I'm amped, I'm hyped, I'm ready to fight. But for those people I have offended, who are actually seeking knowledge, who do the homework, who care enough and don't know, and they're afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions, folks. Do not be afraid to ask questions. My ire and my anger is not pointed at you. My ire and my anger are pointed at the people that peddle lies and myths because finding out the truth is just too boring. That's where my anger is pointed at. And I'm trying to tell you, I'll make this a bloody MMA death match every time I go live. Even though it makes my heart go up, even though it hurts my fucking blood pressure, even though it costs me sleep, I'll do the MMA death match to make it exciting for you so you understand how important this shit is. If you don't get this, fuck you, man. Seriously, people are dying. So watch this. I'm going to calm down. And I'm going to do this academic style for a second. The Federal Reserve is a creature of Congress. It was put into existence in 1913. In 1913, the Congress decided that it wanted to use a central bank. So they started using a single currency, the US dollar. That Federal Reserve note was chosen because back in the day, the Confederacy had hyperinflation. Why did it have hyperinflation? Because the friggin' South still didn't understand the reason for taxes. They still didn't understand that they needed a tax in their dollar for it to be worth something. And all of a sudden, these Confederate notes were worth jack shit. So the federal government understood that in order to have a currency that it could continually use to trade on to build the nation, it had to have a single currency. And the only way to drive that single currency was through a tax. It's not an evil tax. Oh my God. It's a tax that keeps you having to use that dollar. It perpetuates the need to have that dollar. Okay? So by having a single currency that the government said this is our official currency, we're the sole manufacturer of the US dollar. Okay? We're the sole, you can go in there, you can barter, you can do this and that and the other. You have coupons, they're a form of currency, right? It's worth $1 off something. So there's multiple layers of currency throughout. Back then, you had Confederate dollars, you had greenbacks, you had U.S. dollars, you had silver, you had all these different things. You had people coming in from other countries, sacks of gold, bags of diamonds, friggin' bags of tobacco, bags of friggin' snake oil, bags of whatever the fuck we had. Okay? So we went ahead and we created this system. Every single fiat currency in the history of mankind has had a tax levied on it. Fiat means by decree. So a king, back in the day, would create a minted coin. That coin would be the king's currency because everybody back then had to work to live. So they went out in the yard, they made potatoes, they made friggin' broccoli, they did whatever the hell they do. They went hunting, they went fishing, and there was no need to get a job. Well, the government said, well, we need to build roads. How do we build roads? Well, we'll go ahead and impose a tax on something. You'll need our currency, and now we'll pay you in that currency so that you'll go out there and build roads. So that's how this whole thing works. Okay? Flashing forward a little bit. The United States has sold bonds. Why did they sell bonds during the wartime? Do you think it was to fund the war effort? No. They sold bonds because we were at full employment. Every man was overseas working as a military. Every wife was in the factory working. We are completely at full employment. Our economy was screaming so hard, so loud, so fast, they had to slow it down. So the only way to slow it down was to make people save. By saving, they put their money in bonds. And it slowed the economy down. That was the only way to avoid massive inflation. Now, flash forward to 1971. The Bretton Woods Accord. It was a gold standard deal. Richard Nixon took us off of it. Why did he take us off of it? Because the gold standard puts a lot of limitations on our ability to do anything necessary, to handle shocks, in the economy. By having it pegged to a currency. And we're not abandoning capitalism. You forget about Republicans, we've got other people. That's not how it's going to happen. We're going to have to slowly but surely chip away at it by doing what we can with democratic socialism. And if you want to do alternative currencies and all kinds of other stuff, knock yourself out. What's backing that alternative currency? Okay? I know. I'm sorry about the feed breaking up. Let's see if I can get a little better quality of my Wi-Fi for a second. So the bottom line here is that we have tried multiple ways to do multiple things. And at this time, we have a system that allows us to take care of everybody. We have a system that allows us to take care of every single person. We have a system that allows us to take care of the environment. We have a system that allows us to take care of healthcare and education. But we choose to say stupid things and do stupid things instead of fighting for what we have to work for the good. And people die as a result of that weirdness, that bizarreness, that need to do something awkward and not well thought out. People have to die for that kind of bizarreness. And it's unfair. It's wrong. So we're at this point now where we can do these things immediately. We can solve these problems immediately. So I am pissed. I'm going to stay pissed. I'm going to stay pissed. Anyway, with that, I'm Steve Grummine. Have a great day.